Hello, welcome to another Adventures in Bing chat. So it'll come as no surprise to know that I am very interested in the comparative study of programming languages. And there are a vast number of books that cover this subject area. And I think it's really interesting. What are the key differences between programming languages? What underneath everything, what concepts bridge programming languages? And are there any things that you find in one programming language conceptually that you don't find in another? And usually when you're reading any book that talks about the concepts of programming languages, like an academic book or a college book, chapter 1, paragraph 1 is usually about, why should I read this book? What are, like in the case of studying concepts of programming languages, what are the benefits of that? So I figured it would be interesting to ask Bing the question. Now, one of the reasons it's interesting to ask AI systems these sorts of questions is they're the sort of questions that often people get muddled up about. And what I mean by that is it's the sort of questions that will turn up on, a fairly it's an easy question on an exam paper. So, I've seen it happen in project questions about project management, where often there'll be a fairly easy question about, what are the benefits of studying X, where X is a series of broad concepts, rather than what are the benefits of studying this particular thing. And what often happens is when people don't read the question right, they answer in the latter, like what is the benefit of studying this particular thing, rather than studying the broad concepts of things that are part of that thing, if that makes sense. So it's a good question to ask AI these sort of questions. And so here I've got, can you list the potential benefits of studying concepts of programming languages? Please explain your answer. Because what it'll has, the potential to do by mistake is to actually list the potential benefits of studying a programming language or learning a programming language, which is different. And so if you look down, I've pre-run this just to save time. You'll notice that in actual fact, although it's clearly restated, it says, I'm glad you're interested in learning about the benefits of studying concepts of programming languages. Here are some of the benefits I found on the web. Well, in actual fact, when you look at it, and we'll do the reveal in a moment when we look at the links, it's actually then reverted to saying, oh, these are the benefits of studying programming languages. And although it's saying studying programming languages, it really means studying the languages as opposed to the concepts underneath them, the differences between them. So it's got the classic things like, grow in your current job, enhance your marketability for a new job. Now you could argue that's true in both instances. Improve your performance as an employee or leader, increase your income, increase your reliability, increase your expressivity. Learn new languages more easily. Advance, so that one's fine. Advance the field of computing, that one. But they seem very broad. And when you look at a lot of these, it's pulling them from sort of desperate places, like 17 reasons why you should learn computer programming. It's also got something in here from, why study programming languages, as opposed to why studying the concept. So a lot of it's really very broad, firstly, and some of it is pretty on in the right area, if you know what I mean. So particularly this one. So what I think might be happening here is it's obviously using this article as a reference, and I suspect there's a mixed series of answers in there, some which specifically address learning programming languages, and some of them that address learning concepts of programming languages, like the differences between them. So you get a bit of a mixed bag. So that it's just, again, something you've got to be really careful of here is you sort of often the answer that it's giving to the question isn't really an answer to the question you gave, if that makes sense. And I've said, so this seems to be a list of the benefits of learning actually I've misspelled that, learning a language, rather than the benefits of learning the concept. How would you say they are different? So I've just got it to see whether it knows the difference between. So it says, sorry if my previous answer wasn't clear enough. Learning a programming language means learning how to write code using specific syntax, keywords and features of the language. Learning the concepts of programming languages means learning the general principles, paradigms and design choices that underlie different languages and influence how they work. For example, some of the concepts of programming languages are, and it goes on to list these, and we've seen this before when I've done episodes generally about programming languages. And then it goes on further. Learning the concepts of programming languages can help you understand how different languages work, how they compare and contrast with each other, and how to choose the best language for a given problem or project. Learning a programming language can help you apply your knowledge of concepts to write key code using that language and create specific applications or solutions. So then I just asked it specific questions. So these questions I'm asking are the sort of things that if you read any textbook on, reasons for studying the potential benefits of concepts of programming languages across the spectrum of languages, what sort of things does it say are the benefits? So one is increased capacity to express ideas. So in some ways this goes back to this idea of the limits of my language are the limits of my world, which I believe is a sort of probably not a very accurate quote from Wittgenstein. And you can sort of apply that to learning programming languages. And so then it's I suppose, agreeing with me and going, yes, the increased capacity to express ideas is one of the benefits of studying concepts of programming languages, not just learning specific language. According to some sources, this benefit means, and so it's pulling them again from fairly different places, I think, which is fine. That's good. Interesting, that's a book I recognise. Sebesta. Yep. So what does it say? Expressive language influences the depth to which we can think and the types of algorithms we can create. Learning new languages broadens the scope of software development through thought processes, as we can use different constructs, paradigms. Excellent. Yep. Similarly, if programmers want to stimulate the features of languages in another language, they should have some idea regarding the concepts in other languages as well. Okay, yep. And many beginners, for example, have difficulties because they don't yet know the programming language well enough to know what it can do. Language influences limits one's ability to express, even formulate ideas. Excellent. Okay. So it's expanding on these concepts here. Now the problem is, let me just try this. I'm going to see if it lets me do this. Sometimes it won't let you ask the question, but it's almost like, in light of everything above, how would you answer the question now? And let's see if that improves it. I may have thrown a bit of a curveball by what I ask it later on, but we'll see. What about the increased ability to learn new languages? And then it goes on to seemingly echo that, I suppose. Another benefit of studying the concepts of programming languages, not just learning a specific language, according to some sources. So again, it's good. It's picking up on this idea that I want it to differentiate between the benefit of studying concepts versus the benefit of studying a specific language. So that's getting a bit more accurate. And the concept of programming languages can help you understand the similarities and differences between various languages and their design choices. Where's it pulling that from? Transfer your skills and knowledge from one language to another, as you can recognise the common patterns, principles and paradigms that underlie different languages. Choosing the best language for a problem. And keep up with the latest trends. Interesting. What about? Okay, so you're more like, okay, I see why it's done that. What about a better understanding of the significance of implementation? Again, another benefit that you often see listed in textbooks about comparative study of programming languages. That can be executed by computer implementation is important because it affects the performance, portability, reliability. Two general approaches to implementation. So now it's getting into describing what the information about implementation. And then, so it's almost gone through that process of locking into that. There are many combinations of blah, blah. Learning about the concepts and techniques of implementation can help you understand how different programming languages work, how they compare and contrast with each other, and how to choose the best language for a given problem or project. Okay. So and it's another interesting thing, and part of why I do this is it's interesting to see how Bing does like a bit of a preamble before it answers the question. It's almost like collecting new information to complement the answer or just enhance the answer. What about a better use of languages that are already known? Okay. Is another benefit of studying the concepts of programming languages, not just learning a specific language. According to some sources, this benefit means that include your proficiency in language you already know, as you can review and reinforce the grammar, vocabulary, syntax. Learning the concepts of programming languages can help you avoid confusion and interference between the languages you already know. Avoid confusion and interference. Expand your knowledge and skills so this idea of sort of going back over stuff you already know in the light of becoming aware of underlying concepts. Apply your languages to different domains and contexts. Yeah, because there are instances where you might not realise that a particular programming language can be applied to a problem domain adequately. And so that misunderstanding or lack of understanding of underlying concepts may lead you to think that you need to use another programming language when you don't. Or just make sure you give a programming language a fair crack. What about the overall advancement of computing? Okay, can help you contribute to the development and improvement of existing or new languages, as you can understand the design choices, trade-offs and challenges involved in creating and implementing languages. Learning concepts of programming can help you participate in academic and professional discussions, research and innovation relating to programming languages. Advance the field of computing by applying your knowledge and skills to various domains and contexts such as data science, artificial intelligence, software engineering, web development. Yeah, because I suppose as you understand better the concepts, you can see how they might be applied to certain areas, and then through improved usage within those areas, improved performance and what's a good word I'm looking for here, efficiencies, I suppose, then that has an effect on that area of study. Like, if you're doing data science and the methods that you're using are fairly arcane and not very efficient, seeing how you might be able to apply certain programming languages that address data science concepts really well is obviously going to make you more efficient in doing that discipline, in performing data science processes, techniques and things like that. Can you create some abstract artwork based on the subjects we have discussed above? There you go. I'm thinking of the artwork for the thumbnail. So I quite liked, where was it? Was it this one? One of these. I didn't get around to swapping it out actually. No, this is pretty interesting. I thought. When you get up close you can see they've got like text in them. But yeah, I like the look of that one. So I think that's going on the thumbnail in the little speech bubble. So what I want you to try here, and I don't think I can delete, I can't get it to unanswer that question, but so if I say, in light of all the discussion we have had above, how would you now answer the question boom. Okay, let's see what happens. So this I haven't tried. It's still being incredibly general. Because if you think, those answers could certainly the first 1, 2, 3, 4. But these are incredibly general, Like, you could argue this could be an answer if anybody says, what are the benefits of increasing your knowledge in your particular domain? Well, yep, it will help me grow in my current job. It will improve my performance, increase my income, increase my reliability, increase your expressivity. So this is a bit more, closer to the sort of things we've discussed. Increase your ability to learn new languages, contribute to the development and improvement of existing or advance the field of computing. So what it's actually done, and it's no surprise here, is it's simply sort of aggregated everything. So there's no, what would I say, like improvement in the answer as such. It's not saying, well, yeah, those first 5 things are just very general, because I suppose it doesn't know that. But yeah, again, it's interesting. This is the sort of stuff I like to test out and see how, because you can imagine if you asked that question of a human and they came back and said the first thing, and then you started to say, well, what about this, or what about this, almost like that, what would you call it, like almost, this isn't quite Socratic dialogue, but in that same area, okay, how about this? And hopefully the person answering the question would go, oh, that's a really good point, that I'm being pretty general, aren't I? And then when you asked it a second time, so in light of everything we've discussed above, would you want to revise your answer? And they might come to hopefully the conclusion that, well, those were pretty general, sort of get the hint. Now, maybe you might have to say, oh, I think your answer originally was fairly general and could be applied to a multitude of domains, learning any subject. And they might go, yeah, I suppose so. But often, you'd almost expect someone to come to that conclusion themselves as you're talking them through everything. And while I don't expect a chatbot to behave in this way, in that way necessarily, it is interesting to see what it does actually do when you start to again discuss backwards and forwards like concepts around it that under normal circumstances you might sort of expect it to drop a lot of the generalities, I suppose. I mean, maybe I'm being a bit too what's the word, charitable. I don't know. Well, what do you think? I mean, is that, I suppose where I'm going with this is, if the aim with this is artificial general intelligence in the long game, is that, so in my mind, that's something that I would expect AGI to have, that sort of ability to recognize in a discussion where, maybe I am being a little bit general here, and I now see the light in terms of how I should answer this, without explicitly saying that, even though in a couple of places I did say, well, hang on a moment, what you're answering here is general. Where was it fairly early on? It seems to be a list of the benefits of learning language rather than the benefits of learning the concepts. How would you say they're different? It's not really totally learning from its mistakes. Of course, it doesn't even realise it's a mistake necessarily. It's just saying, "Oh, I'm sure it's not clear enough." Sorry, but not sorry. And then, in a perfect world, I suppose, you'd expect it to ditch the generalities and the light bulb go on, metaphorical light bulb. But that and to me, and I don't know if anybody agrees with that, that's something that would need to happen with AGI. Is that ability to reflect on what's happened already. However it does that, I mean, the problem is when you use terms like reflection, you're going to have a very, human cognition centric view of that, obviously. And that's, I recognize that there is a problem when you're discussing AI, artificial general intelligence, those sort of areas. You have to really catch yourself when you are anthropomorphizing those things and using terminology which really applies to human cognition. And I know I'm guilty of that because I have a tendency to think functionally when I'm thinking about this more than behaviourally, functionally in terms of let me wind back on that. Maybe a better term here, but the actual results you're getting, are they the same? And not quite so much thinking about how is it getting there. So is it thinking like a human, which clearly it isn't. But so you can be in a position where it doesn't think like that, but it does behave like that. I suppose that's what I'm trying to say. And so that in itself is problematic when you're discussing it. Try not to flip between those two concepts, which are quite different things. And I think it's going to be pretty hard work with these GPT models, the way they're structured, to get it into that, into a way where it can reflect on its answers and learn in a sort of stepwise fashion, where it's not specifically told, that answer's incorrect, and here's where you went wrong, as opposed to giving it answers about getting it to reflect on its answer and say, well, hang on a moment, what about this? And actually seeing the conflict, seeing the paradoxes there, seeing the difference between a sort of slightly artfully vague answer and an answer that's more specific, that sort of thing. So it's lots of questions to think about, and I'm starting to ramble a little bit as it bounces around in my head as well. So hopefully that was enlightening, and one can get an idea of what sort of interactions might lead to better answers and what ones won't. And I think this way of what about this, what about that, doesn't really work. Needs work, needs some work on trying to get it to improve its answer, and saying what about this or what about that doesn't really work as a way of doing that. So thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in the next episode.